response by the CS is arrogant. Arrogant and demeaning and dismissive. Really, if we wanted to ask the IG, we would have requested the IG to come here. But because he's in charge of that ministry, and a question had been given to him, we expected that he would get answers from his officers so that when he comes here, he gives a suitable answer. But to direct the Member of Parliament to go and call the IG, I think that's arrogant and not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. You are appearing before this committee. And the committee asking you question to do with internal security. Yes, you are not the IG, but you are the policy head of that institution called national security. I don't want to travel that side. The question I want to pursue is that of Ijara and FAF. The reason why you give NPR is because there is gap in security, and the police are not enough to really do policy to protect lives and property. The fundamental question the Honorable Member should have asked, which I want to put to you, is there still need for NPR in those two constituencies where the problem of Al-Shabaab actually is current, it is also fluid, and it is existential, that some of these members are not able to travel freely in their constituencies just because of fearing for their own security. Probably that is the line we want to pursue with you. Thank you, Chair.
If in Fafi and Ijara and all other border towns, if there were 21 NPRs and you withdraw 16, meaning there are only 5 remaining, according to me, that is suicidal, extremely dangerous. What measures do you have to curb the insecurity and the problems that we have in those areas?
Regarding NPR, I think even as Waziri attempts to answer the question on disciplinary, I am a witness that NPR really helps in security. And I also don't dispute the fact that they should be vetted, trained, and equipped. But again, Waziri, they say justice delayed is justice denied. And in Swahili, they say ngoja ngoja huumiza matumbo. So if at all they have to do all those processes, they have to fast track it. Because as we continue to delay them, then the Mwananchi continues to suffer.
I think I also want to concur with my colleagues on the role played by the NPRs in securing the country. And I think, well, for my colleague from PAVI, he would like to know, and I also would like to know, how long it will take to fast track this 16 the gap which we have now in that area, so that he can be able to tell his constituents.
Whatever, but it's okay. The CS said the gap is known. It's 250. In fact, it's in his table because there's one time with the RC and 250 was recommended in 2023 January. Up to now, nothing was recruited in the entire FAFI. And they only have 58 members, NPRs now in the entire FAFI constituency. 16 now gone. That's the situation in FAFI. The second thing the CS said is they were replaced by the 17 I mentioned. But now that he's saying this is an IG thing, I don't know whether I can continue with the question. Because is he sure that those are the 17 replaced? Because these 17 were recruited in 2024. And the 16 were recruited in 2011. The 16 are in the Magala division, close to Somalia border, controlled from there. The 17 were recruited by a base in Balambala, controlled by SOG camp in Balambala. So sure, is that a replacement? Or is it two different forces in two different constituencies It's not. That's why I said when I raised this question, I told you what we receive is a table, a laptop answers. I don't know whether you bring the IG so that we can ask these technical questions.
Maybe honorable member, the Waziri is here.
Those 17s who are now working with those Raya, is that a replacement or not? Because there are two different places, two different constituencies, 600 apart, 600 kilometers apart. That's the question. And then on the 17 itself, are you aware that out of these 17, 2 of them, because they are now on the payroll of the government as SOG workers from Raya, and they have no guns for the last 2 years. Are you aware that 2 of them have been hunted down in their homes and killed? And if yes, what action is the ministry doing in relation to that? Lastly, I asked you on the question of gaps. What is the gap of NPR? I just want you to go on record. What is the gap of NPR in Fafi constituency? And what is the ministry doing? And give me please some timelines which I can work with. Lastly, on the issue of interventions, you have noted down a lot of things. You have been in office now for 2 years. In your reign, once years, what is the number of NPR in the last 2 years and a half? In the 2 years and a half you have been in office. What is the number of NPRs you have recruited in Fafi? That's one question. 2, are you aware that Galmadala is a police station with an OCS?
Was that part of the question?
Oh, it's part of the interventions. I'm just asking what he has done with the interventions.
Just to guide,
Yes.
You know, of course, when we do invite the CS or any other officer, we normally furnish them because
on the police stations, because this part of interventions, that's a police station serving a whole division. Does it have a vehicle? It's an intervention. In the 2 years you have in office, do you have a vehicle in that police station? Have you, if not, what are you trying to do in that sense? 3, there's QRUs you have mentioned here. 2 of the QRU is Kindiki and Kamude. Each one hosting 80 to 90 soldiers. Do they have vehicles for the 2 years you have been there? So I want a clear indication from your ministry for the 2 years you've been there. What exactly interventions have you done in terms of recruitment, in terms of provision of equipment to those soldiers which are there, in terms of vehicles on there? Have you ever done even a security road in that constituency? Is there a functioning airstrip so that it can serve even your soldiers in that area? And if it's not, what have you done in that? Those are my interventions, the questions of the questions. Lastly, on the issue of abductions, you said you have, I told you have a list of those who have intervention. Can you just give the committee the number of abductions on records reported by the constituents, abductions both by Al-Shabaab and suspected government agencies? The 2 objections. List, just not the names, but figures, if you have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jacob. Maybe in 5 minutes.
If my remarks appear dismissive of or arrogant to the committee, I want to apologize. That's the list of my objectives. Secondly, the issue of what the minister does, what the IG does, it was not to remove responsibility of any type from the minister, was to explain we have a constitution which creates independent offices and independent institutions, including parliament. And therefore, I just wanted to say that you don't expect the minister to micromanage the IG on operational issues, but if the information on operational issues is requested, I can get it from the IG. That was the point, strictly. But I cannot keep on telling him, deploy here, give this kind of firearm to this officer. Those are operational issues, and the Constitution gives him that leeway. Thirdly, the IG was in northern Kenya last week, the acting IG that time, to map out that area extensively, because we have real challenges there. Myself, have been there overtly and covertly many times, so I have a fair understanding. I may not have the details that the Honourable Member for Fafi has, because that is his constituency. I may not have all the details, but I have a fair understanding, general understanding of the area, the needs, and so forth and so on. And I want to agree with the member and those who have spoken also in support that Fafi, Ijara is one of the neediest areas we have at the moment. We've had other needy areas where the threat levels have significantly going down, and I've already said that area is where we are remaining with a great challenge among a few other areas. For example, a year ago, Boni, south of Ijara, Boni, Lamu, was a big headache. But right now, after we managed to put in a bit of operational and policy decisions, the place now is stable. I just wanted to assure the member and the colleagues team from that area that we are putting all efforts right now to make sure that we seal the gaps there. Around deployment, I agree. The NPR allocations for Northern Kenya generally are quite small. There was a recommendation, for example, for Fafi for 250. But you see, that's a recommendation. It's, number two, it is subject to availability of resources. And number three, what perhaps we could do is to expedite that process, which I want to undertake on behalf of the National Police Service. But what I may not support or agree with is the suggestion by the Honourable Member for Laikipia North that we do away with training. We cannot recruit NPRs and not train and equip them. Unless I didn't understand, I had as if the member said she doesn't see the need of training. Unless
I said I don't dispute.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, I apologize. It's my mistake. So we will expedite. So in the next 14 days, we are going to review the situation there. Out of the need of 250, we may not have the resources to implement the 250 at once, and therefore we can start with 100 or so, see how that pans out, and maybe another month or two, we can incrementally meet the demand. Even in the places where we have given a commitment for NPR, some of them have never been honored because of resource issues. For Isiolo, Wajir, I'm sure the member for Wajir is here, and so many other places. Even where we have given, we have not given the full complement. But I admit, I think that area, and perhaps that is the reason why that is the area now remaining, giving us a security headache, requires expedited focus, and I want to commit to the member and to the committee that in the next 14 days we will at least start with the deployment of about 100, expedite and look for resources for their training so that they can help us even as we meet the full need for that area.
Yes, for record, Waziri,
Yeah.
for clarity, so that probably we don't go back again. That is Jara and Fafi.
We can do 100 for a start.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I also know we are constrained for budget. But given the need there, we need to do that. And then secondly,
And kindly,
on
maybe
vehicles.
as we do when Waziri,
Yeah,
the area where the 16 were discharged.
yes,
Because this member has been actually, we have been in contact for the last 4 or 5 months.
yeah,
Remember even at the time we had the team led by Kenan of Northeastern team,
yeah.
where he actually was appointed there.
Local leaders and the police really have to work with the local leaders to assess where the most need should be, and I think there's no problem with assuring that. with regard to vehicles, about half of the police stations in Kenya do not have vehicles. Slightly, actually more than 50%. Because of resource issues. So we are really in a very delicate situation. Between the police and GAO, we need 5,200 vehicles. We just managed to get 1,000, which we have purchased, and they should be with us in about a month's time. And they have taken, Treasury took us rounds from as early as May. We had, and of course for good reasons, because they also didn't have the resources. So we negotiated downwards until we got the 1,000. What I can promise is that we'll prioritize the most needed stations, including the stations from the members area. And I know many members here also have many police stations that don't have cars, the OCSs don't have AIE, and so forth and so on. The police equipment modernization program is what we want to use. And now that we have basic heavy hardware, and I think for the second and third year, we can invest more of our own usual security operations budget to take care of police vehicles, as opposed ordinary police vehicles or APCs for places like Ijara and Fafi. And then finally, I think, yes, that's it. The other things I remain guided on how to answer them, because some of them were not part of the statement. I may not have all the information on my fingertips.
By either Al-Shabaab or suspected government agency. I think that was the last question.
I think that was the last question, but I got the CS, he said he doesn't have those numbers. The reason I raised that question is to see the grimness of the situation. That now people are in fear, either they're abducted by the government or by Al-Shabaab.
No, government does not abduct people, Chair. Even the word abduction, what we refer to in security is missing persons reports. That is the official legal thing, because somebody comes and says, my son, my uncle, my neighbor was taken by unknown people. It's a missing person report. And that information, I can also supply it within 24 hours, because there must be an OB. But, if the OB numbers and the number of people who have reported missing are needed, I can supply it within the next 24 hours as well. Is it for Fafi or for the entire?
No, it was Fafi.
Just 4,000 to finish, bodabodas are stolen. And therefore, so that then if there is a connection, we need to call them into order. And lastly, they don't, when they sign for those agreements, they are told that the motorcycles are insured. But there's never compensation. They get stolen, and that is it. The families do not get any compensation. And lastly, okay, I've said lastly enough, but I need to say this, that even as we do this, Chair, and I feel this statement is not, I know the capacity Waziri has. I think this statement has just been sent from either the county commissioner or the county commander. It doesn't look like it is a serious statement. Just saying what a border has to go join circles, what a border to, it doesn't have content. And I'm sure that's why, Waziri, when you looked at it, you called and asked for another report to be filed in 2 weeks. I want to request, Waziri, I think that they could have chairs of Mahali. Because in the country, Chair, I've done some investigation. The whole country, for the last 5 months, we've lost less than 15 border operators. 7 of them are from Taita Taveta. So there's something in Taita Taveta that is happening that needs more, your eye in Taita Taveta. 7 out of 15 in the country, a small county, a peaceful county, there's a problem. Chair, there was a rumor, I don't see us to confirm, that there was a murder convict that escaped Manyani in March. And I did call Manyani, in charge of Manyani prison, but I didn't get any information. But it appeared in some gutter press that there is a murder convict that and who happened to be had committed murder a year ago in my constituency, and he was convicted for 30 years. The rumor has it he was in a theatre press somewhere, and people in the social media that he had disappeared. So I want you to confirm whether that is the position, and if it's a position, maybe that can be, maybe there is a connection. Thank you, Chair.
We are not at a position now to comprehensively address that issue. That's why I gave my team 2 weeks. But what I want to agree with the member outrightly now is the issue of the deployment we have in Taita Tavera at the moment. That's something we can administratively look at even as we wait for the report. Both DCI and the NIS team there. On the question of our state officers, we started this exercise last year. 42,500 officers have been in one station for more than 3 years, contrary to government policy. We began the program of the transfers. We are halfway. We are about 26,000 already have moved because of their logistical issues. There are issues that come with these transfers and movements. But I want to assure the House that that policy is reversible and will be implemented to the full. Any officer who has served in one station for more than 3 years must move to another station. You cannot have a security officer serving in one area for 7 years, 10 years, 15 years. It is against public interest. And they make police officers part of the local community. They start opening bars and doing civilian things there, and marrying local girls and getting married to local boys. And the police officer loses the integrity, the impartiality, and the esteem that he should carry themselves with. So I will perhaps engage the member further once that. And if the committee needs me, maybe later on this matter, I can always come back. And even generally on the border question, Chair, we have a big issue in this country, and therefore the efforts we are doing between the police, traffic department of the police, and NTSA to streamline this sector, we will require your support to develop that policy framework, which we will push through Parliament and the legislation as well.
Thank you so much. I think there's 7 days. So what
we're doing to resolve the conflict between communities in West Pokot and Turkana counties. First, I want to commend the member, Honorable Chair, because I am aware from where I sit that him and his counterpart from the West Pokot side have already started on their own initiative a process of bringing the communities there together. And I think there is one of the members of this committee who have just observed, a member for Laikipia North who has left, that sometimes the solutions from the leaders are faster, more effective. And in fact, I was looking for the member because him and his counterpart for Kacheliba are doing a good job. And we believe that the small gaps that we are experiencing along that border, which has given us a lot of problems between the two counties, if we involve the political leaders, we are going to see a complete end of that problem. And therefore, I will be looking for the member and his counterpart. We have a sit down. My ministry will facilitate them to engage communities and actually facilitate leaders-led initiative, even without us security people, because those are very, very powerful engines. But other than that, we are looking at the deployment there. We don't have adequate deployment of formed up units. We know where the gaps are. We've just been discussing with the service commanders, especially from the formed up units, GSU and the other formed up units, us2 and the rest. We need additional facilities there. And now that we are in a new financial year, I want to assure the member we are going to seal some of the remaining gaps, even as he and the other political leaders assist us with sensitizing communities to live in peace and to restrain from crime. Other than adding our formations, we have this issue of administrative units, which is key to stabilizing areas like Turkana, West Pokot, and other marginal areas. We know we have outstanding, at least I did Lokichogio, fully operational, but we have Aro and Suguta Lokiriama. We have already identified the DCCs for those areas. The problem has been the infrastructure for hosting the DCCs and the other heads of department, because it's not enough just to send a DCC. You need other heads of department so that the sub-county helps the community access government services across board in a more appropriate manner. His Excellency the President directed us actually quite a while ago that the remaining 3 sub-counties must be operational in 90 days. We are behind schedule. I've explained myself, it was a resource because we have to set up the structures. And therefore, what we need to do, therefore, I'll be calling again the leaders from Turkana so that we agree what we do based on the resources we have to make sure that the 3 remaining sub-counties that needs to be operational are operationalized in the shortest time possible. Other than that, we are again relying a lot on our Nga officers to do peace building across the 2 communities. But also we are investing in intelligence-led operations. Days are gone by where we were just informed that cattle has been stolen and we just send policemen just like that to look for cows. We're doing intelligence-led operations. It's helping us big time. Mheshimiwa will confirm. Even the few incidents of thefts on both sides, we've had recoveries. Unlike before, of course, we have not recovered 100%, but we've had improved recovery rates because we are using intelligence-led operational method. And of course, we are not in a bad place now in the fight against banditry, terrorism, and other organized crime, courtesy of this committee and parliament, and also the police equipment modernization program that has really helped us. In fact, we have just had some receipts of more sophisticated weapons, aerial equipment for the war against banditry, including armored drones and those kind of things, because we have to just upscale the war. And of course, we will be careful not to harm people in the process, innocent people, but we are also sending a warning to terrorists and bandits that we have a country to protect. 99% of Kenyans are law-abiding. 1% are the people giving us headache. And the law allows us to use force to neutralize the effects, the criminal effects of 1% against the 99%. So we have other administrative units in the table on page 3, which are gazetted some with the details there. We are looking for resources to make sure that all the operational, the administrative units are operationalized. I know I've given these promises for quite some while, but sometimes